So good evening, good morning. Welcome to week 6 for PSSL 6240. As you saw before, if you were at the Adobe Connect session, my camera had a failure that I'm still trying to figure out what happened with it, or my camera on my computer. I might have to go to one of those online repair stores to see if they can kind of access my camera and see if they can kind of fix that up. But yeah, that was an issue, so we'll stick to this Microsoft Word outline for the YouTube lectures or the YouTube review and previews. So just announcement. Adobe Connect session, the next one is 10 October. We'll have 2 presentations. Please keep them to about 20-25 minutes each. Group 3 identified. You will be doing an overview of the Boston Marathon attack, and this coming week will be very important on how you do that. So it's the intelligence failures that led up to the Boston Marathon attack. That will be your presentation. So just I'll send a bunch of links to you guys so you guys can get started on that. But that's what you will brief on, is the Boston Marathon attack and the intelligence failures, why it happened, where were the points that it could have been stopped. And then group 4, you will just brief counterterrorism strategy per what you see in the week 8 assignment. So yeah, just continue, counterterrorism strategy, where you're going to go with that, and then review for the final. That will cover the next Adobe Connect session on 10 October. A review of last week, U.S. counterterrorism strategy. Just a couple of questions to keep in mind, especially if you're doing a paper, and everyone needs to keep these in mind for the final. What has the U.S. done well, and what does the U.S. need improvement on? What have we done well in the last, since 9/11? What have we accomplished, and what can we implement going forward? And what have we not done well, or what areas in counterterrorism strategy do we need improvement, more emphasis on? And as hopefully you're thinking through these issues as you're going along, and you can now divide, okay, this is where we were showing poor progress on, this is where we need improvement on, this is where we need to go forward. So just think about that. You guys read the Zakaria article, and he gave a pretty good laydown. I didn't agree with everything he said, but he said, are we accomplishing our goal to combat Islamic extremism? And if our goal on 9/11 was to combat Islamic extremism, according to Zakaria, we've done a pretty decent job. Keep in mind, his article was written before 9/11, or before, the Arab Spring, before the capture of Osama bin Laden, before the rise of ISIS. So those are things that probably are corollaries to his analysis. But it's just important to think. Are we accomplishing our goal? Next thing to think about, again, strategy against ISIS. You all read the headlines, you watch the news, and the question to ask is, are we pursuing a correct strategy to degrade or destroy ISIS? Or should we even degrade, and destroy ISIS? Those are kind of questions that to keep in mind as you're kind of moving along in this course and seeing what you see on the news. Hopefully now you guys have studied counterterrorism strategy, and you can say, are we implementing it? Are we doing what's necessary to succeed against ISIS? What are we doing wrong? And then the final point, the way forward. We're going to probably switch president, or we are going to switch presidents in the next couple of years. And the question is, okay, 2016 forward, what should be our strategy? If 2001 to 2007 we were knocking off countries and trying to rebuild them as part of our strategy, if 2009 to 2013, 2014 we're trying to use drones as a main part of our strategy, okay, what do we do next? And that's something to kind of think about as you're, again, for those of you who are doing a briefing or writing that last paper. We also looked at was comparative counterterrorism strategy. You read in the Akapani, the EU article, or EU counterterrorism strategy. I'll let you decide what was good, what was bad about what the EU is doing, and then in the lecture you heard Israeli counterterrorism strategy and the lessons learned for the U.S. and the Gora, Professor Gora, that video that I had you watch, they touched on Russia, India, and Spain as well. And the question is, okay, so what is their, what can the U.S. learn from those case studies as well? So I hope from the last week you got that from the counterterrorism strategy piece. Just previewing next week, I have 2 readings, the Fort Hood shooting reading, and the page numbers are and the links you have, as well as the 3 documentaries. And I just want to, Caitlin gave me a heads up. This National Geographic Road to 9/11, the link has changed, so I will send out the new link in the email that comes with this YouTube. So just keep that in mind. It's a very good documentary that covers the 9/11 Commission findings up to 9/11. The one thing that documentary doesn't cover, but the NOVA does, is the NSA and the NSA's role and the NSA's issues with not being able to uncover the 9/11 plot. NOVA Inside the Spy Factory, and again, you have the link there. These 2, combined with the reading on the 9/11 Commission in Chapter 13, should give you a good overview of the 9/11 intelligence failures, why we still have intelligence failures, or what were the intelligence failures that led up to 9/11. The BBC underwear bomber, the Christmas Day bomber, some of you might remember that, back in 2009, another excellent documentary on YouTube. It covers what are intelligence failures that led to the underwear bomber. How come despite knowing the the potential risks to civil aviation, despite having that person watch listed, why weren't we able to uncover that plot? So that's a key key intelligence failure as well that that documentary goes into detail. So the question I have again is, and in addition, I don't have here is the Fort Hood shooting congressional report. And again, the question is, why do we still have those intelligence failures? So question 1, what were the intelligence failures that caused 9/11? And these documentaries, these top 2 at least, go into pretty good detail there. And then the second question, what were the intelligence failures for Fort Hood shooting, Christmas Day, Boston attack? And the question you need to ask is, okay, despite spending $1 trillion on Homeland Security, and if you throw in the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, that's another couple of $1 trillion, why do we still have these intelligence failures? Why do we still have Fort Hood, Christmas Day, Boston? That's what, you can imagine if you have to brief Congress. Congress is going to ask you or your boss those questions, and you need to kind of have some sort of answer for them. And then the question that kind of dovetails that is, does the U.S. government have the structures and capabilities to deal with the terrorism threat? Whether it's, whether these 3 threats, or whether it's the ISIS threat, or there's homegrown threats that we're going to see in the future. So that's what I'm looking for this upcoming week. And I'll be interested, again, I'll send the links out for the group that's doing Boston, the group 3 that's doing Boston. So I look forward to your answers on the discussion boards, and if there's any questions or issues, don't hesitate to contact me.